Okay, I have hit the green light, and that means we are ready to go. I am here with Gary, and I'm going to murder this last name, Patre.
Yeah,
How do you pronounce
Petra. It's a
Patre?
French name.
It is,
Petra.
And here's what's sad is I spent a bunch of time in Montreal, basically from the mid '90s to early 2000s, and
Okay,
I picked up zero French. So
really.
yeah. So we're here to talk about Vampire Chapters, an absolutely awesome game that just destroyed their Kickstarter. Had a fantastic run there. And so Gary, why don't you tell me a little bit about the game? Tell me about the project.
Okay, so the project started over a year now. We, Thomas and I, founded Flyos Games like 3 years ago. And one of our goals when we started this was to merge our passion for tabletop RPGs with board games. And one of the tabletop RPGs we played the most is Vampire the Masquerade. We played it for over 17 years, and one day I remember we were in a car and we were like, okay, we have to make something with that game. And when Thomas went to the Gen Con like 2 years ago, he talked with Donae De Vere, which works for Paradox Interactive, and she's managing uh, you know the licensees for Vampire, and they both had like such a great time talking about their characters, and there was a real human connection with the guys at Paradox. And we were invited to pitch our idea, and we had this idea for a long time. It's a bridge between a tabletop RPG and a board game. So we wanted to have like discussion with NPCs. You can fight, you can investigate, you can decide um, the type of actions you want to do. You can live a story that's based on your choices, or branching scenarios. We had several ideas. We compiled this, we presented this to the Paradox Interactive team, and they fell in love with the concept. And it was at the very moment when Paradox was opening the license to board games. So we started to talk about it publicly and build the core game essentials to this board game. And we launched our campaign like a month ago. And as you said, it went beyond expectation. We had
I'll say.
like great expectations because there is such a huge vampire fan community, but that much we were not expecting that. So we're very happy, and we are now working and doing our best to deliver the best game possible.
Yeah. So a lot to unpack there. Let's kind of work backwards a little bit because we recently had a vampire-related campaign around a really cool book, which was a reimagination of Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay,
Which
yeah.
instead of a book, it was this package of maps and field notes and audio recordings and all that unfolded the story, similar to how Bram Stoker did it. And what we found is just this vampire fandom, Dracula fandom that's out there really fueled excitement in the campaign organically. For you guys, how much of Canadian, it was about almost 1.4 million, right? Is what you raised?
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
One
So
third.
how much of that do you think was driven by this audience for Vampire, and how much did you actually have to cultivate your audience and ask with that?
I think like 3/4 of the backers are Vampire fans, or at least they know about Vampire. Some of these fandom are active players. Some played it like back in time. We received many messages from people who played that when they were teenagers, because it's quite an old game, Vampire the Masquerade. And now they stop playing because they have a career, they have family, they have and that was one of we're this type of players. We start to work, we don't have that much time to constitute an army of player every week and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We played as much as we can, but like in a smaller group, and it is harder to find that. And we're very happy that back timers, old timers, people who played that back in time are very excited about this, so they can now play with friends, start a campaign with no storyteller, because the core idea of the game is that we get rid of the storyteller, and there's no dungeon master, there's no one that needs to conceive a story. The story is central to the game. So now they can play with their friends, play a scenario or two, stop playing for a week, add new players, and continue to live that experience. So there's
So,
quite a lot of people doing
so let's
in
dig
that
into
area.
that a little bit. The differentiation between a narrator-driven experience versus a story that you lay out as a creator.
Mhm. Oh, the difference is that we cannot replace the essence of a tabletop RPG. I mean, this is the difference of a game like Cyberpunk 2077, the tabletop RPG versus the video game. The video game has a narrative arc that leads player to certain decisions, which is awesome. But the tabletop RPG, you can do whatever you want. I mean, this is the limitation of imagination. So we're not comparing ourselves to a tabletop RPG. We are inspired from that. So I think we're closer to a video game RPG than a real tabletop RPG. We're taking the rules of Vampire the Masquerade, like the red dice, like the rolling system, the how you use your disciplines, powers, stuff like that. This is it's inspired by the tabletop RPG, but the choices you make, how the story unfolds, is closer to a video game than a tabletop RPG, because a tabletop RPG is limitless. It's do whatever you want. That's your storyteller can imagine.
Cool. So I think the other thing too is that it unfolds in 30 minutes, right? So targeted for we have lives, we can't hold up for a weekend audience, right?
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes per player. And this is like an average time. Players who want to take their time, strategize, think of, okay, what we can do, talk about their future action. They can play like 2 hours, 3 hours per scenario. But we also want to make this like small events that structure the global story. So for example, the very first scenario, you will encounter the main enemy of the campaign. The idea is, to introduce player to the world of darkness, to introduce them to the main character they will have to fight later, and how they have to manage the masquerade, because this is the essence of Vampire the Masquerade. And you can rush at this guy trying to fight him and get rid of the humans all around. This could be done in 30 minutes per player, like if you play 3 players under an hour and a half. But you can take your time, decide who to talk to first. There's many sequences that can appear in that scenario, and play for a longer period. And then it leads you to another scenario, and depending on your choices, you may select a path that suits your playing style. This is the idea behind it, is that we want players to move on to a new scenario, to keep, every scenario will end with like a small cliffhanger somehow. So you want to know more about the main story. You want to know more about your characters, how they're related to this world, because the characters in the game that you play are not archetypes. You're not playing like a sort of vampire, like a gangrel or a bruja. You are playing a character that is related to that clan, which means that they have a backstory, they have interest in that world, they have personal abilities. And even if you can make your character level up and evolve, because this is an evolving campaign, you start with an amount of points, but at every scenario you gain experience points and your character increases in level. His main personality remains, his connection to that vampire world remains, and we want to have a storytelling centric approach to this type of board game.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems differentiated from the pack a little bit, and I think that's part of its appeal. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about what happens when you get to manage 6,000 backers. Like, you guys stated a goal of around 250,000 Canadian, which is ambitious. I think you had an idea that this was going to be big. When you quintuple that, what does that do to your team? What does that do to your planning of rolling out this game, good and bad?
Yeah, it's funny because other people asked us the same question, and honestly, it was not an issue for us. I mean, what we've done with our previous games, we had only like 900 backers, 950 backers. And the way we structured the production of the game, the quality of the game, we don't ever compromise on the quality whatsoever, whether it's in game design, graphic design, illustration and stuff. We want to work with the best people, and we already structured the amount of freelancers, because Flyos is just Thomas and I. We're just two guys running the edition company, but we're hiring many freelancers for that work. And I mean, doing something for like 900 backers and doing that for 6,000, even 10,000, I mean, it's just a production matter. How we will manage the production delays, the amount of copy that needs to be delivered, like to the fulfillment centers. This is more technical, but in the end, it does not affect the quality of the game itself. Once we agree that we're going to use this type of assets for the game design, like the booklets for dialogues, this type of tokens, if you produce 1 or 10,000, for us, it does not change anything. It's just that we need to be more careful with the manufacturer at the end. So we're sure there is no production malfunctions and issues with the quality. But we just need to be more focused on quality, but the game itself won't be affected by the amount of players. I mean, we're super happy that we have so many backers, but honestly, we would have delivered the same quality game if we had 10 backers.
Right.
So for us, it's not an issue.
Well, how much pre-launch marketing and advertising and audience building did you do on your end prior to launching the campaign?
To begin, Thomas and I have a background in, Thomas worked for startups for Intel back in time and stuff. I worked for advertising agencies for over 10 years now. And we have this experience in building, talking to the various communities. And we did perhaps like a 6-month work on how to communicate, how to reach the vampire fans, how to reach a board game enthusiast, and build videos to talk about the gameplay. And we opened the campaign like the guys from Awaken Realms do. I mean, they open their campaign, people can see what they're doing, and they're adjusting details here and there, because previously in our previous campaigns, we were scared of showing things. I think it's a human reaction. You just want to show what's perfect and well designed, and you don't want to open to critics before. And this is a mistake that we avoided in that campaign. We showed early process to the potential backers. We opened the campaign before its real launch date, like the draft, so people could see, make suggestions. And we adapted many things to that campaign and the game itself on the Kickstarter, on the Facebook page first, and on the draft, because they gave us their feedback and we adjusted.
Yeah, and that's,
I think perfect. I mean, we did a great campaign, but
something we always hunt for in the pre-launch is how do you get a level of commitment from these audiences to be there on those first few days. And what you're talking about is something that we've been exploring in our most recent campaigns of utilizing Kickstarter's new landing page feature for preview, but also the preview link. Like, when do we share that preview link? Or is it just to give people a snapshot at rewards they might want? Or is it giving these early enthusiasts an opportunity to have some personal input? And
it's a good question. I mean, the first thing we've done is many months before the launch of the campaign, we announced that for all day one backers, we offered an expansion pack, a full character with his sets of scenarios. We offered that to the day one backers. I think day one is the most important day. I mean, 3/4 of the campaign happened day one in our case. So we talked about it very early. And in that landing page, as you said, we have that picture of if you back day one, you get the Banu Hakim expansion for free. I think this is important to, this is like marketing type of things, but it works really well in the end, because people know that, okay, if they're here day one, they don't miss that day, they will have something to get.
Yeah, and that gives you a chance to gauge how many of those people you're interacting with in those months prior. to get a sense of, okay, maybe I need to spend $40,000 on ads because I'm going to raise $750,000 in 24 hours, you know?
Yeah. But you know, something we've done in that campaign, we spent a very few amount in advertising. We spent a bit of money on Board Game Geek, but like the minimum amount for, you know, banner campaign, it was just like an awareness campaign, so people know that, okay, this game is running. Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, there's Vampire. You know, just as a reminder. The return on investment was great for people who clicked actually on the banners, but it's just we were counting on the awareness to talk about it, and we spent some money on Facebook, but not that much in the end. Compared to, we have many friends that we talk to that's running like $1 million campaigns as well, and they spend so much money in advertising, which we understand, because, you know, we have to reach people everywhere. But we use some, you know, small techniques to reduce the pricing, like using videos on Facebook, and then retarget to people who saw like a limited amount of the video and stuff like that. So it reduces the cost per acquisition for any viewer. And, you know, we guess that if someone watched our video for 75% of the time, we were thinking that, okay, this person might be interested into purchasing the game, so why not target these people? Which worked really well in the end, because the results on Facebook were very high on our campaign without spending too much money on that.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's a lesson for anyone running, not just board games, but anyone running a first-time Kickstarter, is most people start with the awareness funnel of, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this thing, but they immediately think that that awareness funnel is going to give them a purchase. And there's this 2 to 3 steps in between where you want to filter out people, you want to narrow down to who's the most engaged and interested, and have a methodology to have a dialogue back and forth. And I really like the idea of, hey, here's the page, you know, here's our first set of art. What do you think? So we make a bigger investment in the art. Is the art making you happy? You know, do we like these characters? You know, do we like this dice design? You know, all those things are giving opportunity to get feedback. So inevitably, when you're having dialogue and feedback, especially in something like a board game where there's a lot of heavy opinions and enthusiasts, how do you deal with negative commentary?
That's a very good question. Because we run 2 previous campaigns, we know that, you know, there is people who won't be happy, there is people who will have like a negative approach to it, and that's okay. I mean, but the difference is we run 2 small campaigns. The first game did like 80,000. Yeah, 8030.
Yeah.
80K.
Okay.
80K. Which is good, but, you know, it's very quite small. The second game is only 47K, which is even less than the first one. So this type of bad comments, we know they're present, but it's not that big, you know. But this is the first campaign that we have so many backers, and the impact on our emotion is kind of, I mean, someone telling bad things, it's okay, because when the comments are constructive, like, you guys, you're doing that, but perhaps you could have done this. We're not like, for example, like the language. We had this idea of unlocking language translation to the game, because we have like a 3,100 words in our game, and opening this to a new language is very costly, and we wanted to make the community decide. We thought it was a good idea at the beginning, but it was probably the worst idea we had in the campaign, because when you're fighting for your language, you're making a position between the backers. And we received many bad comments, you know, when the Italian community said, okay, guys, vote for Italian, and you have like the Brazilian community, no, vote for Portuguese. And it's like, okay, they're just trying to fight each other instead of being together with us. And this was a mistake, for example. So we received bad comments for that, which are the comments that make sense. And that's okay. We're taking this, and that's fine. But there is the other comments, you know, the things that are just here to to break your mental
break your spirit.
break your spirit, and try to just to be bad comments and whatever you can think of before. How doesn't matter how prepared you are to this, it still affects you. You think about it, you're like, okay, I have to. So you have to take distance to these people. And unfortunately, when you take distance from your own campaign, we were not thinking like, okay, this is great, we're reaching $1 million in Canadian dollar. We were just like, okay, trying to fix all these breaches and not enjoying the campaign enough. I mean, we're starting to enjoy this now because we're realizing, okay, that's great. I mean, we have enough money to make a great game, work full time on this, which is awesome. I mean, this is the dream that's coming true, but we're starting enjoying it, and we should have enjoyed it before. So next time, we probably answer bad comments, that because we answered every comment, even the worst, we will probably answer like comments that allow us to get better, and not answer just comments trying to break our spirit. Spend less time on this because it makes a lot of noise in our head.
So let's talk about, now that you're enjoying it, I don't think that 1.3 million is your max, because you have a late pledge reminder here, or people can still pledge and do a interim funding period. What's your plan for that?
It's a good question. So the first batch went really well. We are working on the game itself. For now, we are closing the pledge. We will open like a small short period because some backers got their credit card canceled and stuff like that. Like late minute problems. So we will open like a 2 days window so people can fix their pledge. And like if you want to miss the campaign for a couple of days or whatever, they can back the game now. But the strategy for the future is to focus on the game itself, deliver the rules, and a couple of scenarios, playable full scenarios. So you have an overview of what the game really is before we start the full work of writing and complete all scenarios. And once we've done this, we will be able to share it to the community, so the first batch of backers, so they can test it and get the feeling of it, get their feedback on these scenarios. And once we are confident enough, we can present this and open a late pledge to new backers, so they can test the game, what the game really is in the end. And this is when we will open this. So the estimation of backers, we don't have any idea. The only thing I can say is that in a couple of days, we had like about 500 late pledge subscription to that, so, which is really good, actually.
Well, I think that what you're running here is really interesting, this approach to it, because you have sort of another pre-launch opportunity here, right? Where you can apply some of the similar techniques to this new audience you're building, who's saying, hey, when this opens up, let me know. It's going to be for 2 days, so it's very similar to a day one of a Kickstarter. But you can feed them, hey, here's one round of rules or whatever it is. And I'm willing to bet if you got 500 signups now, it wouldn't shock me if you gain another 2,500 pledges just on this alone.
That's possible.
Yeah,
that's
especially
possible.
because of the success of it.
Yeah, we're just trying to make calculation based on the average amount. I think our average number is $210 per backer, which is, I mean, really good in Canadian dollars. We still have to make the comparison because the Canadian dollar is very, very low, but it's still good numbers. Yeah, maybe, I don't know the amount. I mean, for us, it's a matter that what's good about that is that we can increase the quality, because for now we already have like quotes from different manufacturers. Some people we work with, like Panda Games and others. So we're trying to make the best decision for the game itself. The more money we have, the more quality, and because it's not only about the quality itself, it's about the relation we have with the manufacturing company. How we invest in talents, how we invest into an infographist, for example, who can help us, be very precise, very great files. So the translator don't spend time trying to translate something from bad documents. It's also internal structures that we can put so everything is fluent, and
Yeah.
and really well geared. So,
well,
yeah.
I think, obviously you guys killed it.
Thank you.
It's a subject matter that's a smart game to run because there is such a baked-in community, and I think any game designer should really think about that when they're thinking about genre or types of characters or whatnot. Who are my people and who are the people I'm going to attract? Because now if you do another vampire-related title in the future, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, for sure.
You have a brand new audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, you clearly know what you're doing from a marketing standpoint. It's awesome. So when do you project that backers will have that first round of rules in their hands, the test rules?
So we started the working session for game design with John Gilmore. John Gilmore is the game designer, coding game designer of Dead of Winter. The idea is that we wanted to work with one of the top 100 games of Board Game Geek. We wanted someone that has very good experience in making like top-notch games. And once we knew that we reached like higher expectation in the campaign, the money aspect of the campaign, we knew we could hire someone like him. And we started the work session yesterday in their new office. That was very good session about breaking some ideas we had, adding new ones and stuff. So we will probably be able to have a complete alpha version of the rules mid-April, and then we will make that bounce with a set of 2 other game designers. We are working with I don't remember their name, Brian Neff and Nathan Cohen. Both are game designers on the Return to the Dark Tower campaign that worked kind of well as well,
Yeah.
And these guys will help us like trying to test the game in many possible ways. Try to play like 4 players, rush on 1 enemy, do all the tests that you can possibly imagine. They will do this on the 2 first scenarios. So those 2 scenarios will be as perfect as we can. We are aiming to do this during the month of May, probably. So this scenario should be available by the end of May, something like that.
That's a great timeline for a campaign that basically just ended. To within 3 months, you already have your community of 6,000 backers engaged in a test. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we want to get their opinion before the summer vacation. If we can do this before the vacation, because people are not here present, they probably won't access and don't want to and see this type of things. Before that, it's some sort of, okay, we backed something, and they come back with real stuff, and we kind of invest into that game for good reasons, and we owe them that to focus on the gameplay, because basically our what we proposed to the backers at first was not a final game. It was like 70% of the rules were done, but the final 30% are the most complex to assemble. So we have 6,000 people who back the game on a promise, which is fantastic for us. We don't even had a physical prototype that we share to testers, to reviewers. We just had like a video and a couple of reviewers that play the Tabletopia digital version of the game. So as you said, for the next games, we will have like a complete gameplay finished, a new story, so this will be somehow different and even better, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think that you guys have proven worthy of the trust. You're clearly going to deliver, and I think that's fantastic. So,
thank you.
Strange questions. We live in interesting times. We're recording this on March 13th, and between last night and today, we've had all major sports canceled. All schools have been canceled. So I got 2 questions for you. One, how are you going to survive without the Canadians? And are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, I get the strange question thing. We are not too afraid about this for now. I mean, I believe this is a personal thing, so it's not about it's not the company statement, or it's just a personal thing. I think on my own that it's okay that governments and institutions have to prepare for something big. That's normal. I mean, if they don't do this, they will be criticized for this.
Yeah.
But I think the relation we have as persons, as people, to this should not be the same level of fear.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned, so I wash my hand a little bit more. If someone doesn't want to shake my hand, I'm like, okay, I understand that's fine, but I will continue living like I usually do. And just if I have, I have a mom that's kind of old, so I'm just trying to protect her and do, trying to avoid that she goes out too much.
Yeah.
But for my kids, for myself, for my wife, I mean, no, we're not that scared on a personal level. But
yeah. So
what are you thinking?
So yeah, so I'm thinking kind of on the business side. A little joke too about missing hockey, but Woodshed, we're based in Detroit, which is right on the Canadian border. And I mentioned earlier in the interview that I had spent several years in Montreal. We're hearing today that it's possible Canada's going to close the border with the U.S. And the U.S. rightly or wrongly has already imposed a lot of travel and trade restrictions. Do you anticipate any hiccups in your delivery or delay or promotion of the game without being able to go to board game conventions or working with overseas vendors, or how is this going to affect your plan?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. We believe that the Gen Con will probably be canceled this year. For now, they announced new speakers, so they don't seem to want to cancel it. But E3 just got canceled a couple of days ago. Gen Con will probably follow. So yeah, we wanted to showcase like the prototype of the game of a scenario or two at Gen Con, so players could have like the feeling of touching the new version of the prototype, like a physical prototype this time. So we will probably avoid that. On the manufacturing side, I'm not too afraid because we still have a full year and a half of development on writing, on translations, on art, on whatever. So we have plenty of time to work on the game itself before we focus on the production itself.
Right.
I would have been scared if we had to produce this summer, but the manufacturing will probably happen next year. So I will start to be afraid like in maybe 10 months from now.
Okay.
If nothing has changed. But if we hear the specialists, the epidemiologists and stuff like that, it's most likely that once we will enter in production, a vaccine will have been done, or
it will have burned out by then.
Yeah, that's what we believe. So we're confident in that, but we don't have other clues. I mean, we're like anybody else. We don't have a production to make right now, so it does not
we're all
affect
guessing.
us.
Yeah, we know several of our campaigns that ended in the last 6 months are now trying to ship, and they're there's no answers.
That sucks. Yeah, that sucks very much for them.
Yeah. All right. Well, Gary, Vampire the Masquerade Chapters, killer campaign. Artwork looks great, and you guys, I'm super impressed you had the strategy for 6 months, stayed committed to it, and really pleased that it paid off in such a great way for you guys. So,
thank you so much.
Stay safe out there. Wash those hands.
Thank you.
And
you too.
good luck working on the notes and getting this guy delivered here.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.